Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the All Things Good podcast. I am your coach and your host, Giovanna Cirillo. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast that helps you with mental health, self-development, and your overall wellness, helping you become the greatest version of yourself. Today, we're going to be talking about trauma, neuroscience, spirituality, culture. Our guest, Dr. Varleisha D. Lyons, is a trauma-informed therapist and founder of Wasut Sanctuary, where she blends neuroscience, culture, and spirituality to support healing, self-regulation, and community well-being. I'm excited about today's topic. Help me by welcoming Dr. Varleisha D. Lyons. Welcome, Dr. Varleisha. How are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited about this topic because reading your bio, you blend almost everything that I'm passionate about: spirituality, culture, neuroscience, healing.
Wow,
So I'm just like, okay, I'm excited about this. So,
that's great. Great.
yes. Okay, so let's get straight to it. Now, you are a doctor, you have a church, and we'll get into that later on in the interview because I'm very interested about that as well. So, you speak a lot about trauma responsive care. How would you define trauma beyond what people typically think it is?
Good question. Out the gate. Okay.
Let's get to
Um,
it.
yeah, so you know, um, I think so in my career, I'm hoping I tried to turn off my do not disturb, but I'm hoping that, when we are talking about trauma, that we're thinking beyond the traditional medical model, right?
Okay.
And trauma, it started when let's consider the people that were in war, right? And so the
Hmm.
soldiers that were coming home. My profession, I'm an occupational therapist by trade. I have my, PhD in health sciences, but I'm an OT at heart. Like that's what found me, and that's, what I really, really align with. And during that time, what we found was, there were soldiers that were coming back from war, but it wasn't just shell shock as they used to define it.
Hmm.
It was impacting their daily lives, right? And so
Okay.
that's how our profession of occupational therapy came to be, because they were servicing those who had experienced trauma, but it was impacting how they get dressed, how they get up in the morning, how do you care for others, how do you interact with the world around you. And
Hmm.
so I knew this from school, from my education and from my grad school training. And then I would say it was deep into my career, because I've been in this profession approaching 25 years. And that's post undergrad, undergrad career. And so when I discovered that, someone came up to me, one of my colleagues, and she was saying, "What do you know about complex trauma?" And I was baffled. I'm like, I haven't heard that before. And
Hmm.
so when she was describing it, I'm like, oh, that's all the children I worked with in Coney Island, New York. Those are
Wow.
the children I worked with from my community. Actually, that is me, right? It's
Mm.
trauma. And so when I discovered that there's this new kind of view of trauma, I then delved deeper into it, because I'm a researcher, not
Hmm.
just by hobby, but by certified. I used to be a scientific programs officer, and so I'm like, I need to know more about this. And when I learned about it, and I learned about trauma informed care, I was very intrigued. I thought it was wonderful, but I felt like there was a missing piece. And
Okay.
so the missing piece was trauma informed care teaches us not what's wrong with the person, but what happened to them, right?
Hmm.
And I said, but there's a missing step. And the missing step is, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help you grow towards healing? Now, that's trauma responsive care. And trauma responsive care really is more hands on approach, one on one, because trauma informed care serves a great purpose. It is systematic, it's policy, it's organizational level. But trauma
Right.
responsive care is how I'm going to help you on your individual level, one on one, to really help healing, because talking is great, but when we're talking about true healing, the body has to be included in that. And so trauma responsive care is an approach that I didn't develop it, but I think I'm one of the first to publish it.
Okay.
and really look at how the mind, body, spirit connects, especially when it comes to trauma. And I teach a lot about neuroeducation. Neuroeducation
Hmm.
is the end. And, when I talk, actually, it's the T, sorry. The T in my trauma approach, it's called the action approach. And the
Okay.
T is teaching neuroeducation. That to me has been missing in the conversation. And I find a way to teach it to children, to parents, to teachers, to, therapists alike in a way that's digestible.
I love that. I love that because it can be very complex, but
Yeah.
making it digestible makes it obviously more understanding and people are able to comprehend and apply whatever knowledge they learn to their lives. So thank you so much for sharing that and thank you for your work.
Thank
Now
you.
we all are familiar with the book The Body Remembers or The Body Keeps the Score,
Body
right?
keeps score. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How does trauma actually live in the body?
Mm, that is a deep conversation. But um, you're right. So the trauma, the body keeps the score. I think that's one of the culminating works of
Mm,
this conversation. And with the body keeps the score, it really highlights that it's not just, people like to put mental health in a box, right? They
hmm.
like to put it over here, especially when it comes to quote unquote mental illness. But the body keeps the score, I think, highlighted that it's something that we all can be exposed to, and when it happens to us, we have these neurological triggers that occur that you then have this, like, it's like a history book, right? That then
Right,
carries with you. And so when you experience something similar in the world, your body will remember it as if you were in that same scenario that caused you the trauma. And so
right.
your sympathetic nervous system, which is I think many of us have heard fight, flight, freeze, right? That deer in the headlights moment. That sympathetic nervous system is triggered by an event that happens. And unfortunately, for those who have experienced trauma, it might be a non-threatening event, yet it has so many similarities that it then triggers in the body that this is harmful to us. This is a problem. This is a threat. And the best example I could probably give is simply our olfactory system, which is our smell. And
Mm,
so smelling something, let's say it's a cologne, a perfume, or anything in the environment, smell has direct access to your emotional brain. It's one of the only
right.
senses that does that. It bypasses all the other neurological systems for sensory. And so when it does that for a reason, because if there's a fire, you want to smell smoke, right? So
Hmm.
you can protect yourself. So it's a protective mechanism. And so when it
Okay.
happens, and you have the smell, it automatically goes to your limbic system, which is your emotional brain. And it tells the emotional brain, hey, do you remember this? The last time we've experienced this, it wasn't great. There's a file cabinet in that emotional brain called your hippocampus, and it literally keeps track of these experiences. And so then when you are exposed to something where whether it's smell or even the lighting or sound, or something someone's saying to you, you then say, I know what this is. Your nervous system starts to overactivate in a way that you're being threatened, but it could just simply be someone expressing their emotions to you. Or if you're a child, it's a teacher giving a direction, or someone that just entered a space that has on a cologne that triggered that response because it lives in your nervous system. And I can
Right.
get a little bit more into it, but it's different parts of your brain that stores the emotional memory versus, your regular memory, such as episodic memory.
Okay. Now, okay, so sensory or sense of smell is one of them. Can you give an example of like when the body like actually feels it, like, irregulated, when it feels like that anxiety? Can you give an example in regards to that?
Sure. I'm sorry, the dogs are barking.
I
um,
can't hear
okay, good, good, good. Um,
it.
so what happens is with your sympathetic nervous system. So when I teach, I give an example of an individual that is literally, it's an image of a guy crossing the street and there are headlights coming his way and he's stuck, right? And he has this deer in the headlights moment. And so what happens with your sympathetic nervous system is that you have this part in your brainstem that is like, looking out for everything. looking out for the threat and looking out for things that are important to us. It's called your reticular activating system. And so I call it the motherboard. It's like programming your computer. Or
Okay.
even these days, I think a better example would be your like chat GPT, right? So,
Right.
you're
Your
putting in
algorithm.
right your algorithm exactly on YouTube. I hate when someone uses my account and it throws off my algorithm. So like you're programming it. And
Right.
so like we identify things that are important and we hear it, or we can block out things that are unimportant. Like during this interview, you said you couldn't hear my dogs, right? So
Mhm.
for me, that's important, but you're like, I don't hear the dogs, right? Your body's able to block out what's not important and then bring in what you want. And so after you get through that, let's call it a security gate, there are no threats. Your body then in the brainstem area will then send a message to your emotional brain. And your
Okay.
emotional brain also has a little watchdog. I call it little chihuahua. And it's there like just kind of watching and waiting, like, are we good? Are we not so good? And so the chihuahua is watching and waiting for signals. And it's being spoken to like by the file cabinet. So it has this information that's sitting and waiting. And it's like, well, is this okay? And the file cabinet's like, this is cool. Or, mm-mm. I remember last time we felt like this. And last time we felt like this, you remember what happened, right? And so that little chihuahua starts to lose its mind if it's like, this
Mm.
is not okay. The unfortunate part about that is that if we're being triggered, then that means our sympathetic nervous system is being set off. And
Okay.
that means that our pupils are dilated, our ears are actually hearing more. So we're bringing in more light, we're bringing in a lot of different sound around us. Our body, our muscles are more tense. There's more blood being pumped to the muscles and oxygen to the muscles and not here.
Hmm.
Anyone that's been in a crazy argument and you're like, that wasn't me, you've experienced this before,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right. And so that means that those lower level areas of your brain, your nervous system are activated. The executive, which this is the frontal lobe, which is in charge of like executive functioning, problem
Hmm.
solving, making the best choice, all of that, that's not accessible because your nervous system is now preoccupied with what's happening down here, the emotion.
Okay.
And so you have your sensory systems on your brain, the lateral parts and the back part of your brain, and they're now activated. And that doesn't leave much room for this to make the best
Mm.
decision, right? And so when you go through trauma and they say it lives in the body, it literally is sending signals, your neurochemistry. When it happens, they like relieve the soldiers to go through your body and say, we need to get ready for the fight or the flight. And that's the preoccupation that's occurring. And so when I hear
Interesting.
people say, I know like this student, this young man, I know he can do this. I've seen him do it. And I asked him about the context of it. What was happening? What was the, environment that he was in? Were you one-on-one when you saw him do it before? And now is it in a group of individuals? It all changes because of the sensorial aspects of that context might be reminding the body of what happened in terms of the trauma.
Right. Ah, that's so good. So informational. Like, I'm just thinking because, okay, so how does one, in the midst of this trigger, right? In the
Mhm,
midst of this remembering,
mhm.
what would you say would be the best way? I mean, on the spot, because obviously, someone who's actually in that moment, what can they do when they begin to recognize, oh my God, I'm having an episode, or do they not even recognize this? Can you break that down? Are they aware? Is there some part of them that's aware, or is it just response?
Yeah. So I disclose I'm now comfortable in my late 40s with sharing so much. I'm surprised by it. So
Thank you.
that
Thank you for sharing.
yeah, yeah. So I am confident in it. So
Right. That's
I
a whole
have
nother topic. Okay.
we can come back to that. So I have been diagnosed with moderate to severe PTSD for life
Mhm.
events that have happened to me. I'm now proud to say that I have mild PTSD, right?
Awesome.
And I realized in that journey that even I've studied neuroscience, neurosociology, I've educated many. internationally, not just in the States. And I was shocked to find out from my own journey that there were moments that I did not know were triggers. Like I had no
Mm,
idea it was a trigger. And I'm not saying that to clout, but but I studied this, and how did I not even know, right?
right.
It's just one of those things that your brain and your nervous system is really protecting you. It is protecting you. That is its job. It is a watchdog. It's looking out for threats, and it's really finding a way that you won't slip into something that you can't get back out of, right? And we
Hmm.
know how easily you hear about people going into depression or even psychotic moments. And so it'll do everything it needs to do to keep you from that. And in that process, it also protects you from those memories.
Hmm.
And I was just sharing with someone today that there's an anniversary coming up of one of my loved ones' birthday parties, an event. So they're still here, they're fine. But I was at this event and I was speaking. I ran into someone that was an old friend, and they were, sharing with me, "Do you remember, that last trip that we all took?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember. Do you remember what happened?" And they started sharing this story with me, and my mouth just dropped open. I was in disbelief that I forgot this
Wow.
traumatic event that happened on that trip. You would think that it would be something that would be in the forefront of my brain because it was so significant. And for days, like I had to go to my therapist, like, girl, what is wrong with me? And she reminded me, it's trauma. Your body will, your brain will block those memories out because it didn't serve you, right? Cause you pain, and it's protecting you. And then, so when it's unveiled, the memory is still there, and you remember it in a very sensorial way. And so it's not like I remember when I graduated, or it's not those type of memories. It is a memory that you feel. Your heart rate changes, your oxygen rate changes, your respiratory rate.
Mm,
You feel more tense. My body immediately clammed up, right? And it was as if I were in that moment when it happened. And so when you talk about the body keeps the score, it literally is that. It is lying like a history book in your DNA, and it's sitting there. And the challenging part with this is if we don't address it or heal it, it then gets passed to our descendants.
mm,
And that's called epigenetics. That's another topic.
right. Right. Yes. Okay, so how important is safety for the body feeling safe during these moments, during these triggers or these episodes?
Mhm. It's so important. And so in all my work, I have like a lot of exercises and activities you can do with individuals or even groups, organizations. And I always preface it by saying, ask for permission.
Mm,
All of us have experienced some time in our life where we felt like we weren't in control. We've all been, exposed to things that have been very traumatic. And I say this with confidence because we've all gone through quarantine with
mm,
COVID, right? So I know this. I know we've all been exposed to trauma. And so it's very important for us to understand the person before you has the potential to have been exposed to trauma.
mm,
And so when I talk about my book, Trauma Treatment in Action, I have an action approach. And the A is to first acknowledge the trauma. And that doesn't just mean acknowledge the trauma that you know, acknowledge the trauma that has the potential to exist in that
right.
person. And it's obvious today that we know that that percentage of possibility is very high. And so we need to first recognize that whoever you're working with or encountering, even if you're in corporate world, might have been that has been exposed to trauma. And I've experienced that myself being an executive at a high level, and not as I guess I just didn't expect to be triggered in that environment. And when I realized I was, then I had to do self advocacy. But not all organizations are prepared to support that level of support.
Mm,
That's the trauma informed care, right?
right.
Understanding that there is a potential. for all of us to have been exposed to trauma.
Awesome. So how does one go about creating that safety with that expectation of, someone around me or maybe just everyone around me might have experienced some form of trauma? And obviously we can't always be perfect, but how do we practice awareness, self-awareness by the environments that we create or the things that we say?
Hmm. Well, I think it starts with training because just like we're having this conversation today and understanding that this is something that is wired, right, on a neurological level.
Mhm.
It's deeper. It's deeper than what we might think. It's not just oh, well, you're feeling sad. Let's have a conversation and make you feel better. No, it's actually, I need to do something with my body. There are physiological things that we need to do.
Mm.
Movement and rhythm is a huge part of it. And some of that has been stripped culturally from some of us, Black and brown individuals. I still have my braids because I came back from my family's powwow this weekend.
Oh,
And,
awesome.
and the drumming and the throat singing is very important culturally. But we know the history of that, right?
Right.
And so we have to be able to come up with mechanisms to tap into that piece of us, of movement, of rhythm, and to give a safe space. It's not the safe space to say, "Hey, we're bringing in a consultant and we're going to have a conversation on, diversity." And this is a safe space, and no one feels like it is.
Mm.
And
Right.
anyone in that environment, we're like, this is not a safe space. Like, I don't know if I can really make it. Everyone's quiet, right? So, so it's really identifying with that person, with that group, like what's important to them.
Mm.
What are their lived experiences? Lived experience is a phrase that I think we need to really embody a little bit more. Because even though, let's say, you're like, oh, I have the same culture or the same ethnicity, that doesn't mean that we have the same lived experiences.
Right.
And
Right.
so our job is to find ways to unveil that. And whether it's through, screening or even having a sanctuary space. My co-author, Nikki Harley, talks about sanctuary spaces. And, when we first started having this conversation, I thought, in my mind, I do a lot of sensory work. We have sensory rooms. And she said, no, a sanctuary space doesn't have to be an actual physical space. It is leaving room, right, for someone. It is leaving
Mm.
time in the day. It is allowing opportunity to connect for that sanctuary space. And just to know that even at the very least that someone is listening or desires to support me in my journey is a sanctuary space.
Wow. That is so good. The sanctuary, because when you think of sanctuary, you think of a physical place, but they're just saying mentally, spiritually, emotionally, having room and space for those conversations, for that time, for those people. So that is amazing and a different perspective for sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, I love the fact that you bridge neuroscience with cultural rooted healing. Let's talk about that. Why is culture such an essential part of healing?
Mm. There's been so much damage,
Mm,
right? And when I give these talks, my audience is diverse. And I say to all of them, whether you're a person of color or you have European descent, we have been done a disservice. We haven't been
right,
told the truth. We have hidden history. I am blessed and honored to know my indigenous roots because it's that close with my grandmother, right? But there's many of us that don't know our roots. And on my maternal side, I still have a lot of question marks. With that, you have emptiness. You don't feel whole. And once
right.
I discovered who my paternal my father was, just to be crass, who I when I discovered who he was, it filled a gap in me. And from that experience, I wanted to spread it to other people. How much of me was missing that now was fulfilled. Even as a child, I would ask questions that I didn't understand. Spiritually, now I get it, but I didn't understand why I would ask my mother, am I adopted? Well, she was a teen mom. Why the heck would I be adopted? Right? What 18-year-old would adopt a child? But I just knew something was missing, right? And I feel like a lot of us had that longing. A lot of us,
Mm,
Black and brown, have that. empty space that is there, that in itself is trauma. It's called cultural trauma. And
Hmm.
cultural trauma plants the seeds for, this passing of that history book in our DNA. And that's, epigenetics stood out to me once I first heard about it and I started reading about the research and listening to some of the researchers in that field. And they were saying that, yes, we once believed that our DNA was locked in. Your parents had these color eyes, this color hair, this is what you're going to be like. That is true. But in addition to that, we have, like, let's say you have this person, and now you're going to put on some earrings and a necklace, some jewelry, right? That is formed by your environment and by your lived experiences. And now that you have put on these extra things, then the next person in line as your descendant will now have those as well. That's
Right.
that's that trauma, but it's also what we call glimmers. So it's not just trauma, but it's also
Hmm.
glimmers. I was told that I looked like my great grandma. I was told that she was a seer, and I'm like, that might explain a lot of the things I thought was crazy, right?
Right.
Right? Just here. Um, and and that a lot of the people on that side of my lineage were teachers or ministers or just spiritual leaders, and I
Hmm.
embody all of that. And so understanding that, just I can't even express to you how fulfilled it made me just to know that peace.
I can imagine. I got the chills on my back because Um, okay, just because of this, lately I've been seeing a lot of people saying the very same thing, like they're looking to connect with their culture, with their history, with their roots.
Mm.
Because, as you stated, it's been so westernized, it's been erased, it's been diluted, it's been everything, right? And so just trying to find the pieces of the actual truth has been a journey in itself, but it's
Yeah,
also been fulfilling. It's been, like you said, you feel like there's a piece of you missing, but once you
yeah,
start to go back to that, there's pieces of you being connected again. And
absolutely.
I was a part of a an amazing art exhibit because I paint, and I created a tree called Rooted, and the
Mm.
tree was made of glass, like broken pieces of glass, and the stem was like the root of the tree. The tree bark was made of textured paint.
Mm.
And I named it Rooted because obviously trees were a huge symbolic spiritual reference for our ancestors for
Absolutely.
history. And the broken glasses were the people that were dispersed and spread out and separated.
Diaspora.
That right, exactly. I can never say that word. So that's why I didn't say it. Diaspora. Forgive me, audience. Um, the diaspora. And so, but we're still connected and we all have this like a piece of the story.
Yeah.
And I mean, being a part of it, it was called Reclaiming Our Untold Stories. And it was about
Yeah.
Black indigenous culture, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Tainos, Cubans, all these things. And I was, oh my God, I was so emotional.
Mm.
And I'm like, but in my poem, so I had a painting and I also had a poem that I recited. And in
Mm.
that poem, my question was, I do not know who was the seer. I do
Mm.
not know who was the healer. This is
Yeah.
in my poetry. I do
Yeah.
not know all of these things because, like you said, now you know who was the seer, and now you know why you see,
Yeah.
right? Why,
Hmm.
where you get these giftings from. And it's so important because same here. I would like to know who was the seer, who was
Yeah.
the one going, seeing all these things, feeling these things, the healer. What did they endure? I want to know, but I
Mm.
don't because we never talked about it because it was never passed down. And
Right.
so I love that you are incorporating that fact because it really is a part of us.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And another piece of it is, and I know my elders might not appreciate this, but we have to let go of the secrets, right? The secrets
Hmm.
that bind us. We think it's protective. We think that we are protecting our ancestors and those who came before. I had to go through that challenge with myself because my mother has passed. And I found out all of this after she passed, and I
Wow.
still wanted to honor her. And it wasn't until she came to me in a vision, in a dream, and spoke to me that I felt like I had that right of passage to then share.
Mm,
But once I'm sharing, the family's like, oh, let's be a little careful with this, careful. Let's just still say, no, we can't still just say this because it's not my truth.
right.
And I think dismantling some of that will bring healing to our communities.
Definitely, definitely. So good. Okay. And besides everything that I just mentioned, what else do we lose when we approach our healing through westernized methods?
Mm. We lose our alignment.
Mm,
We lose our alignment. I believe that we are people of the earth.
right,
When we say black and brown, that usually comes because of our skin, right? And because of our heritage. And I say that we are people of the earth. We are the color of the earth in various ranges, right? Of the dirt, of the sand. Um, and when we are, pushed away from that, misaligned from that, then we're not living in our true selves. We're
mm,
not able to align with spirit. Now, I have come to an area of growth where I realize that I don't mind if you're Christian. I don't mind if you're Islamic. I don't
right,
mind if you say that you're a spiritualist. That's not for me, that's not here. It's not a priority. But aligning with us being indigenous of this earth. And science has now aligned with a lot of what we've been saying. Like science will align with this. This is not theory. We know
right,
who the first people were, right? And
right.
I think we're afraid to say that. I have separated myself from certain entities so that I can say that freely.
Mm,
We lose that freedom. And I have lived because I have climbed that ladder. I have been an executive and I've stood in that space for a long time. Like my CV, my resume is like, oh my God, that's impressive. I started the first occupational therapy program in the state of Delaware. I was proud of that, and I still am. But that's not it, right? That's not where, when I leave here, when I transition, no one's going to care about that. No one's going to say, how much money and grants did you bring in? No, that doesn't matter. What matters is how you align yourself with spirit. Whatever you call spirit, whatever is your truth. It could be Jesus, it could whoever you
right,
align with, right? And then when we become westernized, we lose all of that. I decided, a long time ago that I don't identify with certain religions. I don't put myself in that box. And then when I found out that some of the religion that I did come from actually presents itself in a way that is very different from how I learned it. And I understand that that practice actually is more in alignment with how I see it. I didn't realize that colonization, westernization has stepped in and it has, just changed and caused me to have some falsities that didn't align with my soul. We all know
right,
what that feels like. And if we acknowledge it, if we step into that, then we'll be able to recognize that this is not my journey. And so, on this, aside from my professional career, I've done what I call soul journeys with people.
okay.
And, just walking them through that process of what is it for you? It's not going to look the same for me as it looks for
Mm-hmm.
you. What is your soul's journey? What is it, desiring? When you come in alignment with that, it is like nothing else.
Right.
It is everything, and you'll know it. And then
Yes.
nothing else will pull you from that. A six-figure, salary did not pull me from that. I don't care
Right.
because I'm not taking it with me.
Exactly. And I love that you said alignment because when you're in alignment, there's a sense of freedom.
Hmm.
Like there's no, like you said, you didn't attach yourself. You had to detach yourself from certain religions, even the religions that you grew up with. And because you are in alignment, like you said, it doesn't even matter about those six figures because you
Hmm.
feel free, you feel detached from that. Those things don't serve you and they don't enslave you. You are free to do what you feel to do for your journey in your life. And
Yeah.
so I love the fact that you stated that taking the approach of Westernization um, will create, in a sense, a obviously a disalignment, but a restriction as well is what I see. I just see, control. I see it. And we all know that's what it is. but
Mhm.
there's just a wall that we hit when we stay within that system and we don't go outside of it.
Yes, absolutely. I've been told, I've been in like really high level meetings and told, just listen.
Mm,
Just listen tells me to not speak, right? Just be present. And I had to rethink of why am I here?
mm,
Why am I here? And that goes deep, right? Because
right,
then you start to realize I am here for a reason.
right.
It's not the reason that I thought, right? It's not the reason that I signed up for. And
Mm.
yeah, I could speak on that for days, so I'm digressing.
Trust me, I
And not to
know.
get triggered right now, but
That's a good trigger. That's a good trigger.
yeah,
That's a glimmer.
that's a glimmer. That's a glimmer, right? Right. My ancestors was like, nope, pick your chin up.
Mhm.
We got other work to do. We're not
You're
worried.
right. Okay, so how does spirituality and nervous system regulation actually support each other? And after this, I would love for you to talk about your church and what you guys do in this location.
Okay. So let me get the question clear. So spirituality connecting to the nervous system. Okay. So there are various angles I can take on this. But I spoke to it a little bit already about the
Hmm.
history book through epigenetics, right? Our
Okay.
genes that are carried from our ancestors, or great grand, great, 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 right? Coming down into to you. And there is
Hmm.
science that shows that we do carry this history book, that it is definitely something that is embedded in us. We change the gene sequence from one generation to the other. And then spiritually, we then know that um, those the vicarious trauma or even the vicarious glimmers come from someone else. And it's embedded in our nervous system. And then religion or spirituality is part of culture. And
Mm.
culture is what helps to shape our experiences that then shapes the genes, right? There's
Okay.
another way of looking at this, and some of your, listeners might be familiar with like chakra systems.
Right.
And so your chakras. And when I started studying chakras, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like all into all this, everything spirituality. And then one day, like years later, I was like, this is this is neuroscience. And
Mm.
it hit me that your chakras that's Roy G. Biv. I don't know if anyone remember studying the rainbow colors like in
Okay.
sixth
Yes. Yes.
grade, right? Roy G. Biv. And I'm like, okay, Roy G. Biv, that's how I remember the colors of the chakra. But then I go back to my neurological training. I taught neuroscience and neuroanatomy. I taught brain dissection labs for years, right?
Wow. Wow.
Extensively. And we have these things, these bundles of nerves in our body. And nerves are just cells. They're cells that are part of your nervous system, right? And so these cells, your nerves bundle up, and they bundle up in these groups called plexuses. And so you have these nervous system plexuses that line from, up and down. And
Mm.
there's one called your solar plexus. And so if you're
Hmm.
familiar with your chakras, there's a what? A solar chakra. And
Right.
that stood out to me. I said, that is interesting. Because I'm a little bit of a nerd in that way, right? So what do we mean solar chakra and solar plexus, right? And so I then discovered that there are these bundles of plexuses that line your nervous system that almost perfectly align with the chakra.
Wow. I did
Mhm.
not know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so it's like these individuals that are spiritualists and these individuals that are scientists, they were speaking the same language without even knowing it,
Yes.
right? And it's just, to me, it's beautiful because then I know, like, I know spiritually, I can meditate, I can align, I can do this, and it helps me. But on a neurological level, it's also helping because it is actually calming down what I call like the good juices or the stress juices in your body. There's the neurotransmitters, there are hormones. It's calming down those that stress you and
Right.
increasing the good juices. And when you
Mm.
do that, when you meditate, or what I like to do more so than meditation is mindfulness, just being present.
Right.
Like you can cook, you can drive your car, whatever it is that's just bringing you into the present moment. non-judgmentally, not thinking about the past or the future. You're just there. When you do that, you get an endorphin release, you get a dopamine release, you get to decrease those stress hormones that really impact your nervous system. It highlights that, the chihuahua I talked about. But instead, the good juices are starting to pump in, and this is now available. You become
Hmm.
more present, you become
Right.
more aware. And so, I used to do the segment with my loved one. Him and his coworker partner, they had a radio program. And my segment was called, it was From Science to Spirituality, right? And so that connection to me just makes sense. It just makes sense once I studied it. I'm like, I got to tell the world.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. Those are my favorite topics,
Yeah.
science and spirituality. And I'm just like, there's no way that these two cannot marry. And then I
Right.
did my research and I'm like, of course, the church felt like it should be separated because of, I don't remember the exact reason, but it was the Catholic Church that decided that spirituality and science should be
Mhm.
separate.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
they're saying the same thing. And I love the way you broke that down because a lot of people, when they think of chakras, to them it's just like, oh, chakras,
Like
it's
it's
not
up there.
holy, it's
Mhm.
not
Right.
godly, but it's
Mhm.
science. It is our body. It is what God has placed within us, and there's no denying it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right. How could it be not godly if he's God, she, he, whoever, how you identify, is
hmm
the architect of what we have here?
exactly.
It was perfectly designed.
Yes.
We just have to find it again.
And that's why I say that we all have a piece of the puzzle. Because science has a piece,
Yeah.
spirituality has a piece. I mean, all these different avenues, they all come together and they reveal the spirit world. They reveal God.
Mhm.
Ah,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
could go to church right now. Tell us about your church. I'm interested to find out what exactly you guys practice. What do you teach? Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so Wasut Sanctuary Church is about spiritual humanism. And so that means it's kind of like what we've been talking about today. We're not discounting or, putting down any type of practice. All are
Mm-hmm.
welcome, right? All are welcome. It's very holistic. It's inclusive of that cultural piece that we discussed and the spirituality piece. And so whether it doesn't matter how you identify, but it's really unveiling the history and unveiling the pieces of everything that actually brings in the good. Because
Okay.
we could put down various religions, we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. But that even within that,
Right.
there's good, right? And so I've been a studier of since I was a child, my mother would take me to like the African festivals in town. I grew up in Delaware. We go to Wilmington, Delaware, and go to the African festivals. And she would find me like wandering off to speak to the guy at the table about Islam. And he's giving me a free Quran that I didn't have to purchase. And she's like, "What is wrong with you?" Right? I'm like 8 years old. Right. So I would go home and I would read and read and read and I would study. And so I realized that studying, right, that of anything that, an attempt to align with the divine is beautiful.
Yes.
So that is Wasut. Wasut it means brain in Lakota language, which is part of our family. My
Oh,
grandma was
okay.
Hiawatha Pony, and that's where we just came from, the Hiawatha Pony tribes powwow this weekend. And so with that piece of it, I said, I want to find a way to connect both the indigenous and the African sides of me. And so Wasut, was a word that is Lakota, which is brain, and then sanctuary, right? Comes
Mm,
from here, from this land, that English language word, a sanctuary. And so we plan to do a lot of different events for the community. And, we've done weddings and unfortunately funerals, but helping those to transition, especially we've done some for family members and friends that had young adults transition that had different views. and they knew that they wanted
Mhm.
to honor their views in that process. And so they came to us knowing that we're open and receptive to all. And you're not going to find
Right.
that everywhere, right? And
Right.
so we've done that, and which is an honor. It's just an honor to us. Normally, that's something that we don't even charge for. It's just um, it's a blessing when someone comes to ask you to do something in that level. And we also plan to do things for families and parents of children with special needs because I am an occupational therapist by my training. And I've dealt with a lot of families that have to deal, with just challenges with autism, ADHD, sensory processing disorder. And when do they get a break? When they get a moment?
Right.
When are they able to take their family on a vacation? And so our goal is to obtain different places, residencies across the United States and even internationally, where parents can come for some respite. Usually, when you hear respite care, that means they're sending someone to the home. It's almost like a babysitter, but is somewhat knowledgeable of their diagnoses to allow the
Okay.
family some time away. Our goal is to bring them into a home where they do still have that respite, but mom or dad can get spa treatment or just sit by the
Mm.
pool or just have a moment, right? And in that process, also to have their child care for treatment therapy sessions. And the other part of giving back is that as an occupational therapist, we have students that have to do field work. And field work has just been a strain in terms of finding practitioners that are willing to take a student to learn underneath them.
Right.
Even though they had to do the same thing, right? We all had to pulls me, right? I loved having students, but I want to be able to have a training space for them in that process that will also give respite to the families. And so that's one of our major initiatives that we're trying to launch this year.
That's amazing. You are inspiring. I love it. I love everything that you stand for, your work, your heart, your passion, your soul, your spirit. Love you. Ah, this has been so, so good. Okay, so, all right, so we're going to transition to two different segments. The first one
Okay.
is titled Piece of the Puzzle, and the second one is Soul Snacks. Um,
Okay.
okay, so piece of the puzzle. As I mentioned earlier, I believe that everyone has a piece of the puzzle. Who do you
Mm-hmm.
believe was a piece of the puzzle for your life?
Oh, that's deep. Um, Jeez. Who? It has to be one individual.
Give me one. Give me one.
Okay. My mother. My mother.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother has been a huge piece of the puzzle. And I've learned almost more in her transition than in her living. And she definitely taught me resilience and what that really means. And she's filled in the pieces of the puzzle for me.
Right.
I always, like I stated before, I'm like, what's different with me? What is it? And I couldn't put my finger on it as a child.
Hmm.
And, as after she transitioned, and actually, let me start with before she transitioned. The piece of the puzzle for me was to let me know that I was not insane and I did not have, schizophrenia. Not putting,
Right.
I'm not trying to discount that diagnosis, but I literally thought, what is wrong with me? Because I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things. And she pulled me to the side when my grandfather was on life support. And I said, I was telling her how I was seeing him. I saw him when I walked up, and I said, oh my gosh, like he's in the room and he's on life support. Why would I
Mm.
even tell you that I saw him? And she calmed me down, and she said, the women in our family have a gift. And then she pulled my grandmother over, who also said, baby, just tell us what you saw. Because she knew there was some message
Hmm.
in there. Just tell us what you saw, right?
So good.
And so that filled that piece of it for me because if no one validated it, I mean, I don't even know where it would have led me. This is before I wrote all these books that you see. This is before,
Right.
all of that transition. And then in her passing, she finally came to me and she was standing there and my grandfather was behind her because obviously he had transitioned during that process. And a few years later, she did as well. And he was glowing but not speaking, and she was before me and she said, life will change it as you know, life will change,
Mm.
but if you pray and be steadfast, you'll be fine. And I said, why didn't you come to me? You told me I had this gift. if you knew it, if it's real, then why wouldn't you have come to me? And she said, there's levels that you have to go through before you return.
Mm,
And
mm,
then I started hearing people talk about their own like near life experience, death experiences.
right.
And spiritualists talking about levels, and it aligned with what she told me. And
Mm,
so, even now, I know that she has continues to pour into me, continues to educate me and align me in that way. And whether, she identified in a way, my family was definitely Baptist Christian, and and I value that. I might not identify as that now, but I know that she's still feeding me. My grandmother's still feeding me. My great
right.
grandmother is still feeding me, based upon, just my alignment, and I'm grateful for being aligned with them. That
I
feminine
love
energy.
that.
Hmm.
Yes, I love that. Oh, that's so inspiring. That's such a blessing to have someone
Yeah,
to validate that for you without even like, understanding it and then them just saying this is a part of our lineage. Like embrace it. Oh,
yeah,
so good. So good.
yeah.
All right, let's go into the soul snacks. All right,
Okay.
so think of the first phrase, or it's not like a psychology test where it's like fill in the blank or it's a bit more fun.
Okay.
Okay, so after a long day of doing your work and healing and going through your program or your ministering, I should say. Excuse me, I apologize.
Hmm.
After a long day of that, what is a comforting food that you need?
Oh my gosh. Food and I have an interesting relationship because celiac disease, so that means I can't have any
Oh,
wheat or whatever.
oh, okay. I'm so
So,
sorry.
and then it's okay. It benefits me, right? So, and then my mother passed from colon cancer, so I don't eat
Okay.
meat except for seafood. But
Okay.
if I were to answer the question honestly, it would be a fresh, big, like 3 pound lobster
Mm,
with butter.
3 pound, you greedy. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, I love me some lobster though. I'm not gonna lie,
Yes.
I love seafood.
Mhm.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all of your history and your knowledge and your experience, what's a good movie that you can relate to with all the information that you have?
It's going to sound crazy. I know it is. Believe me, every time I say it, people are like, "What?" Norbit. Norbit is my favorite movie.
I don't
That
think I've
is
seen
with
that.
Eddie Murphy. Oh, you have to watch.
Oh, Norbit. Okay.
It has these like it's a comedy, obviously, but there's these like small little moments where if you don't listen closely, you won't catch it. And that's me. Like I'm sarcastic. I will throw in little, even when I do workshops, I'll throw a little bit in there. And like, I swear it's about 5 minutes later, I'll hear someone laugh. They got it. Right. So it's like an intellectual comedy that, those seeds I like to plant.
Okay,
So
I like that one.
anything that can like, every time I watch it, I see something different and Norbit does it for me.
That's a good pick. I might have to rewatch that. Man, that's an
Yes,
old one. Well, it's not too old, but it's old.
it is. It
Okay, what is a scent that
is.
makes you feel like home, like you're home, like you're back and connected to your roots?
I would say it's a mixture of like the holiday dinners, like that pot of greens and the mac and
Mm,
cheese being cooked at the same time, and maybe some chitlins and pig's feet.
okay.
I don't eat that, but all that smell together. What I like to call Family Day now. People call
Mm,
it Thanksgiving, but there's
right,
so
right.
much pain in that. I can't connect to that. But that holiday smell, that's what brings me back.
I love that. I love that. Ah, Dr. Varleisha, you are an amazing soul. You have so much
Oh, thank
wisdom and
you.
experience. I definitely enjoyed this episode. There's so much more to learn. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I can come back.
Yes. Tell us about your book as well. Tell us about your book. Tell us about how can they find it? How can they connect with you? How can they connect with your church? Is it online? Tell
Yeah.
us.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that moment. drvarleisha.com. That's DR, no period. So VARLEISHA.com. And that way you can find all of my books. I have Trauma Treatment in Action and Self-Regulation and Mindfulness and Sensory Processing Disorders on there. My former last name is Gibbs, so you will see Varleisha Gibbs, but I don't think there are any other Varleishas that are authors. So you can search
Okay.
me there or even on Amazon, you'll find me. The church is connected to drvarleisha.com. There's an education hub, and there's also that sanctuary hub that you can access from that website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been an amazing blend of spirituality, culture, science, neuroscience, just a blend of it all. I really truly hope that this episode has blessed you and has given you some information about the depths of who we are,
Mm.
and just the understanding that there is so much more to what we see. So until next time, I'm your coach and your host. Once again, thank you, Dr. Varleisha. Until
Ew.
next time, I'll see you next time.
Thank you.